And we're back. Many individuals are trying to find a balance between their work life and their home life. And the truth is, sometimes that balance just can't be achieved. Also, people with the busy lives and full career obligations and families and social life, the feeling of overwhelmness can actually creep in. So the question is, how do you actually deal with those situations? So joining us now to tell us more is career strategist and TV contributor Elizabeth Koraca, who we've also seen as a TV contributor, Reuters TV anchor, trains and coaches and strategizes and helps people boost their job performance, and also used to be right here with us here on BronxNet Television. Good to have you.
Great to be back, Darren. How are you today?
I am doing good, and I think I need this segment, so let's just dive right in, right? So, we're talking about the work life balance, and it is something that every professional person really struggles with. And help me out here. I mean, is it more common or is it more uncommon?
Look, life work balance is such a challenge, which is why I don't 100% believe in this concept. Because, look, a balance means something has to be perfect. And there's no such thing as the perfect balance. So some weeks you're going to be busier at work. Some weeks you're going to be busier at home. Sometimes you're going to miss things at home. And you know what? That is okay. So we want to think about what type of expectations of this perfect life that doesn't exist that we are putting on ourselves.
And so when you talk about this perfect life, right? We have this belief of this perfect life, but you have to create this balance. And so let's walk through some steps on how do I get this balance, because for some people it seems like a mountain just to be able to achieve.
Well, yeah, and you don't have to do it all yourself. Sometimes we have a hard time asking for help, but you want to think about, okay, who can help me? How can I make my life easier? It doesn't mean you're being a lazy person. It means you want to actually enjoy your life and feel fulfilled. So how can I take some things off my plate and off my calendar?
And so we have what's called the work harmony checklist. And so let's go through this little checklist, and hopefully we can help some people out. If you didn't help anybody out, you're helping me right now. So go ahead.
So again, as I mentioned before, you want to realize that, look, that perfect television life, it doesn't exist. So let's take those pressures and expectations off yourself right there. You want to ask for help. Who else can help me when I'm feeling like I'm out of control? Do you always feel like you're rushing and you're late for things? If that's the case, start to take things off your calendar. Start to create some space on your calendar.
And one of the things also, Elizabeth, is this thing about comparison, right? We spend a lot of times comparing our success to somebody else or looking at somebody else trying to keep up with the Joneses. And the reality is when we do that, we really put ourselves behind.
We do, because that type of comparison can be the thief of joy. It can take your joy and happiness away when you're trying to keep up with the Joneses and you just don't feel like you can. And again, that's not realistic, because that can put us on a downward spiral of feeling badly about ourselves. And that's the last thing we want to do. So if you're going to compare and you want to improve, compare yourself to a year ago. Where was I a year ago? And moving forward, you want to set goals for the next year. So then you can compare again next year to where you want to be.
And people who work, there's some people who are just what we call the perfectionists, right? Got to make sure that everything is done. And that sometimes creates an unbalanced life because you're working so hard, you're trying to achieve so much, you want to get it done, you want to make sure that you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. So, what kind of advice do we have for perfectionists out there who may be struggling with the balance?
Yes, and I know all about that. I've been there, so I hear you. You really want to think about, okay, are my expectations realistic? Okay, so I want them to be realistic. And there's no such thing as perfect, because if you're striving and trying to achieve perfection, you're never going to get there. You're always going to be disappointed in yourself. And that is the last thing we want. So you want to remind yourself, look, at some point, I proofread this email a million times. I've gone through this document. I'm trying to cross all the T's and dot the I's. And at the end of the day, you want to remember it doesn't have to be perfect. My best is enough. I am enough.
But we also set ourselves up for being overwhelmed. And when you do it like that and you don't follow the advice, the main thing that happens is people sometimes become overwhelmed. So what are some strategies to dealing with working while overwhelmed or living while overwhelmed?
Okay, well, we definitely want to combat overwhelm. Nobody wants to live in that place where we're feeling anxious and on edge and crabby. And people notice sometimes you're not yourself, and you might be kind of snapping like a little turtle, and that's the last thing we want to do, right? So you want to think about, what is overwhelming me? Is it my job? Is it my home life? Have I taken on a volunteer role that it's just too much work? So you want to think about, how can I take some stuff off my plate? So if it's work, can I delegate any of these tasks? Can some coworkers help me with this? Can I have a real good conversation with my manager to see if he or she can help me with this? So you want to pinpoint, where is the overwhelm coming from, so you can combat it.
And when you talk about overwhelming, I think one of the things you also talked about was breathing, right? And that's a real simple exercise that a person can actually engage in to help them through.
Yeah, so when you're feeling that anxiety, that overwhelm, that pit of your stomach uneasiness, that pressure in your chest, those feelings that we all hate getting, just taking a moment and exhaling. And then you're going to breathe in for 4, you're going to breathe out for 4, and you're going to continue this breathing pattern, because it's going to slow you down. You're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4 as you go in, 1, 2, 3, 4 as you go out, and it's going to help stop the mind from racing and feeling so tense in the body.
It sounds so simple, but why is it so hard?
You know what? We don't have to do all these tips and all these steps and this major transformation all at once, because then that can overwhelm us, right? And sometimes when we
Mm.
feel like we have too big of a project to take on, we're not even going to bother with it. So do some small steps at a time. What has resonated with you during our conversation? Is it the breathing tips? Is it speaking to your manager? Is it thinking about that volunteer position, which of course is important, but there's different times to take on leadership roles in volunteer or schools or whatever you might be volunteering for. You want to think about, do I need to be doing something every week? Maybe it's once a month. Maybe that's what I can handle right now. And then during my slow time, I'm all in once again.
And this honestly is probably the busiest time of the year, right? Because you're entering into the fourth quarter for many people who are, working, and then for others who aren't, you got preparation for the holidays. So that overwhelming feeling probably kicks up a lot right now.
It is, and what I say is, don't leave all the holiday stuff till the end, right? If you know you have to do shopping, or you're a decorator, or there's people that you need to see, or there's certain expectations on you at home or in the workplace, start early. And to avoid getting overwhelmed by it even now, make a list.
Yeah.
What is the priorities? What are my priorities that I need to do? Keep them visible so you always have them there, so you know what you need to do next.
Yeah, I was in Costco recently and I saw Santa and I saw the trees and I started to live in denial. So I knew I had to do something, but I don't want to do it right now. I have to wait. So, but it is what it is, right?
It is what it is, but start early. Make a list. You don't want to get home and then you already realize you had 3 trees, right? So
Yeah,
make your list.
you're absolutely right. Elizabeth Koraca, our guest here, we thank you so much now for joining us here on Open. Now, want to tell you, if you want more information on Elizabeth and her work, you can definitely visit her. And if you visit her at her website, of course, I'm sure that you'll be able to get all the information that you need. It's elizabethkoraca.com or on social media at Elizabeth Koraca. We are taking a quick break. We do have more Open. We'll be back right after this.